What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode here, the Side Guys Football Forum. I'm one of your co-hosts on the side, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other half of the guys, Mr. Tad the Side. And Tad, I have to give you props. We're going to get to this a little bit later in the episode, but one of the predictions that you made during our beginning of the season predictions for the entire season came true. So we're going to touch on that as we get to the...
Sorry. Just repeat what you just said. Just one, just a
Something
little.
you predicted.
No. Before that.
The fact that you got something right?
Before that.
Something you predicted about the 2024 NFL season.
Before that.
I have to give you props. Is that what it is?
Slower.
Yeah, I have to give you props because you actually got something right.
That's the stuff.
But guys, we're definitely getting into the beginning episode of the week here. We're giving you our waiver wire decision picks for week 10. But before we get into all that, we have to get into our week 9 injuries. But before we get into that, we have to give a shout out to our great sponsors at Underdog Fantasy, because I mean, you can bet on the NFL slate of action. You can bet on the NBA slate of action. Maybe there'll be some like MLB offseason stuff you can bet on, like over under $595 million contract for Juan Soto. Like maybe that'll be up there. I don't know. We'll see about that. But even though MLB is not season, you can bet on the NHL. They got that going on. MMA, boxing, esports. So they got you covered there. So guys, ton of things to be betting on. Get into the action with their good friends at Underdog Fantasy and use our promo code DESAI, DESAI. You could double up on your initial deposit of $10 or more, up to $500, courtesy of our good friends at Underdog Fantasy. So guys, get into the action with that promo code on Underdog Fantasy. You can use the website, very easy to use there. You can use the apps both on Apple devices as well as Android devices, very user-friendly there as well. So guys, that promo code once again is DESAI, DESAI. Double up on your initial deposit of $10 more, up to $500, courtesy of our good friends at Underdog Fantasy. So Tad, not a ton of week 9 NFL injuries, but there are some significant ones. That is the bigger thing that we had to discuss, obviously, at the top of the episode here. So let's start with the first game that I want to talk about, because we had 2 key injuries in that game. And let's start at the quarterback position here. Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. He is hurt.
That's why the sirens have been going off here all day. Okay.
So yeah, Prescott was seen on the sideline. It was actually kind of funny because I was talking about this with my dad. We were watching the game and he was getting his finger wrapped up on his throwing hand because it looked like he had a laceration on it, like a cut. So they were bandaging that. But then eventually later in the game,
it just got progressively worse.
And it just
like, what is happening?
It turned into a hamstring. I was just like, where did that happen? But yeah, there was a point late in the game. He left with a noticeable limp and he was ruled out with a hamstring injury. News has came out today that he will miss anywhere between 2 and 4 weeks with a hamstring injury. Maybe it could be longer depending on how nagging this is and how his practice week goes. But yeah, for at least 2 to 4 weeks, Dak Prescott will not be the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. You can either rejoice at that or you can be upset about that. I don't know how you feel as a Cowboys fan. I meant like
for a second there, I thought you were addressing me.
Like just as a Cowboys fan, for all of you that are listening.
I will tell you because I obviously living in Dallas, I have a pulse on the Cowboys fan base, and it is so funny because this happened last time when he broke his ankle too, or dislocated his ankle, whatever, when his ankle turned the wrong way. Is they hate Dak up until they don't have him. It's so funny. Like for the past 9 weeks, all I've heard is fuck Dak. He's our problem. Like, why did we pay him? Oh my God. All this shit. And then the second he goes out, it's like, oh shit, we need Dak. It's like, well, just make up your damn mind. So I would say on the whole, Cowboy fans are not happy right now. Not happy in terms of like, oh no, our already disaster of a season is about to get so much worse because we need him. Like he's an easy lightning rod for blame. And now that he's gone, I think people have kind of realized like, oh, that was very much misplaced. And I mean, he deserves some shame, but Yeah, it's just funny because now all of a sudden Cowboy fans are like, oh, the alternative's not better. It's like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Like, it's
Yeah,
Cowboy
that is the
fans.
biggest thing as to why I think we have some complaints as far as like, Dak Prescott as the starting quarterback, but then when he's out, there's a lot of complaints. It's like, okay, now what are we going to
It's
do?
not a Colts Joe Flacco situation where the backup comes in and you're like, yes.
So yeah, this situation, they'll be going with Cooper Rush as the starting quarterback. He came in that game against the Atlanta Falcons as well. So he is right now projected to be the starting quarterback against, all future opponents right now. They're playing the Philadelphia Eagles this weekend specifically, but yeah, like I said, 2 to 4 weeks. So yeah, that should be an interesting matchup there. But the curious thing that I want to ask you about, Tad, is obviously they traded for Trey Lance from my San Francisco 49ers.
How bad does he have to be?
That is the interesting thing, yeah, because they're not going to him, but I wonder whether they'll use him in some sort of creative packages as far as being a running option. But Cooper Rush is also a pretty good runner too, so it's just I wonder do you think in anywhere in this next month or so, do you think we'll see some Trey Lance as the quarterback for the Cowboys, or do you think it's fully going to be Cooper Rush and they have to literally bottom out before they eventually turn to Trey Lance?
I think if we're going to see Trey Lance, it's going to be a full-on switch. It's not going to be any specialty packages. And I'll give you a comparison. The comparison I just brought up is Indianapolis with the Joe Flacco, Anthony Richardson situation. I had the same question last night going to that game. I know he's no longer our starter. Am I going to see any Anthony Richardson tonight? Like if we're on the 1 yard line, are we going to bring him out? And, all of a sudden it's like a running threat in there, kind of like exactly what you brought up, a running specialty package type of thing. And they didn't do that. And I think that was smart because if you do that, you just create more questions. And I know coaches are like, oh, I don't care about what the media is asking me. Well, then why do you get pissed off when they ask you? That's the contradiction of NFL coaches. Clearly you do care, and clearly it does affect the locker room. So, especially a guy like Mike McCarthy, who is definitely on the hot seat right now, I just don't see why you would introduce not even worse than a quarterback controversy. Why would you introduce a backup quarterback controversy? You also saw in Miami, as soon as they were like, Tyler Huntley's better, we're sticking with Tyler Huntley. They were like, Huntley, Boyle. No, Tim Boyle's terrible, so they stuck with Huntley. Didn't quite work out, but they stuck with him nonetheless. So I think that McCarthy's going to stick with Cooper Rush. Now, if he's absolutely terrible, then yes, I think we'll see Trey Lance. But the only way we see Trey Lance is if Cooper Rush gets benched. This guy was drafted in the top 5. He's worse than Blake Bortles. We all made fun of Bortles. Why are we not making fun of Lance?
Bortles at least took his team to an AFC title game.
Yeah. And at least started.
He did. Yeah. No, it's very interesting to see just what's going to happen in Dallas. But really quick, Tad, you said Mike McCarthy is most likely going to get fired. Are you standing by that? Or do you think he gets a sort of a lifeline here because Dak Prescott got hurt?
No, he's toast. He's toast by the end of this year. I'm calling it right now.
All right, fair. Tad, so sticking to that same game, like I said, we got 2 key injuries from the game, both unfortunately for the Dallas Cowboys. Ceedee Lamb, same game. He hurt himself. He suffered an injury in that game. He took a couple big falls on his right shoulder, but he was able to get back up. But then unfortunately, took a bigger fall in the game towards the end of the game, and he ended up being removed from the game. He was slow to get up. They took him out for the rest of the game. News have reported now, that he suffered a AC joint sprain in his right shoulder. He is considered day-to-day now. So people are saying that it's not that serious of an injury, so he could be in line to play this weekend against the Philadelphia Eagles. But maybe, with the Cooper Rush situation, it's good that you have a prominent receiver on there to help support Rush. But if he's really nagging with it all practice week long, then there's a situation where they'll be without 2 of their stars on their offense in Dak Prescott as well as Ceedee Lamb. But yeah, in case Ceedee Lamb can't play this weekend, expect a big performance from both Jalen's. You got Jalen Tolbert and Jalen Brooks being the receivers for them. And then obviously you got the tight end Jake Ferguson. But just Tad, how would you feel about the Cowboys offense going against Philadelphia this weekend in a divisional matchup if potentially Ceedee Lamb and Dak Prescott are both out?
I'm staying away from everyone. And this is someone who has Rico Dowdle on my bench who just went off for 19 points.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, and for example, of you left out a name is Kevontae Turpin. And yes, I'm being a bit of a homer, but he's a good kind of multi-use weapon there. But yeah, Cooper Rush, Kevontae Turpin, Jalen Tolbert. Who's the other Jalen?
Jalen Brooks.
That sounds like the Browns from 08. Like, not an offense I trust whatsoever. And for an offense that wasn't really working in the first place. But now I think that CeeDee Lamb is going to play. But here's my concern is moving forward with him. We saw it with Julio Jones. We saw it with Saquon Barkley in New York. When you ask these guys to touch the football over 100 times a season, they're going to get hurt. Like the end, I don't care how big, how strong, how hulking you are, you're going to get hurt if you're, carrying or catching or whatever, touching the football 100 times a season, you're going to get hurt. And yeah, it may be something like this shoulder injury that doesn't knock you out for that week, but you're going to be feeling that come December. And so it's not so much the now I'm worried about with CeeDee Lamb. It's the month from now I'm worried about now. Because, yeah, especially with Dak Prescott out, they're going to be depending on him hard.
Yeah, and I think just the interesting thing, too, is that obviously he has to say this, but Jerry Jones was asked with the trade deadline being tomorrow as a recording, that is, are the Cowboys going to be sellers with sort of the injuries that they're dealing with? And he's like, no, we're not panicking. We're very comfortable with the situation that we're in. We're just waiting for people to get healthy and we'll be able to be competitive again once again. But yeah, there's a lot of people that are saying that potentially Jerry Jones may do the opposite and he actually may be a buyer to sort of save the season, even once Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and also Micah Parsons, because he's also dealing with injury. Once all of them are sort of healthy again, then maybe they can make a late push towards the end of the season. So yeah, we'll have to see exactly what's going to happen there in Dallas to see what's going to happen with the Cowboys there. But Tad, let's stick to that same game. Unfortunately, on the other side, we have a wide receiver injury.
Sniper's leaving the roof, so we're good.
Drake London, the star receiver for the Atlanta Falcons, is dealing with the injury as well. So he caught a touchdown pass.
Stop doing headstands.
And he was removed from the game with a hip injury. He landed on the hip a little weird. Tests are looking that he suffered a hip pointer, and this shouldn't be a long-term injury, just very similar to CeeDee Lamb as well. But he was seen on the sidelines working on the exercise bike, and he was trying to like stretch it out and move along to see whether he could return in that game. But Tad, obviously, if you saw that game, you know that it was
I saw it. I saw it. I have Drake London on my team. I saw it.
It was one-sided, so there wasn't really much need for him to return in that game. So yeah, they kept him out for the rest of that game. This practice week, I think, will obviously be a big determining factor as to whether he can be able to go. But it's looking like, it could be a potential miss 1 week and then he should be good to go. But yeah, if his practice week goes all okay, he'll miss no time at all. It should be all okay for all you fantasy managers of Drake London. But if Drake London is a no-go, Darnell Mooney just shoots up the boards as far as this is a guy that you want on your roster because he's been killing it even with Drake London.
He was already in like nearing wide receiver 1 territory.
Yeah, the guy has been absolutely going off for them as the secondary receiver. Also, you can expect Kyle Pitts to probably get more involved and Ray McCloud as becomes the second option behind Darnell Mooney in case Drake London can't go. But yeah, honestly, I wouldn't see that much of a drop off from the Falcons offense if Drake London doesn't play because they already have enough skill position players. Obviously, they got Bijan Robinson in the backfield. They can lean on him a little bit more as well. Tyler Algier is a supplemental running back. So, I mean, I think they should be just fine. It's not like the Cowboys situation where it's like now they're without a lot of guys. Even if they were just without Dak Prescott, I still have so many more questions with the Cowboys offense compared to the Falcons offense. So I trust everybody still.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, it took a while to get there. About 2 or 3 weeks, but this Atlanta's that, you know what? Last week I went anti-Dennis Green. This week we're going Dennis Green. They are who we thought they were. And this is exactly what the Falcons offense was expected to be. And I'm so glad you brought up that second receiver's name, which is Ray McCloud.
Former Niner Ray McCloud.
Oh, yeah. I actually totally forgot about that. Shocker. But it was funny because, well, first off, 34 is my favorite number. That was my jersey number in high school. And so I for the past like 2 or 3 weeks, this 34 guy kept vulturing catches from Drake London. I'm like, who is this guy? And it was Ray McCloud, and he's been killing it with Drake London in.
It's true.
And so with Drake London out, I expect Drake London potentially out because I do agree with, everything you've said of it's worth monitoring. It's one of those things like it wouldn't shock me either way if they decide to rest him a week. That wouldn't be like, oh my God, this might be bad. But also they're in a pretty tight division race. So if I had to put a bet on it, I think
and it's actually funny you bring up the
gonna play.
division race because they do play the New Orleans Saints this weekend. So
There you go. The Saints we will most definitely get into.
we're gonna get to that right now.
Oh yeah. So bottom line being is keep monitor. Why is this so hard for me? Monitoring. This is tranquilizer.
Actually could say that.
There we go. I did it this time. I lost my thought process, but point being is monitor. I can do the normal version of it. Drake London's status throughout the week, but if he doesn't play, Ray obviously Darnell Mooney's status shoots up, but he's taken to most leagues at this point. Ray McLeod's status is a great Saturday ad, depending on how the Drake London news goes. That's my backup plan because, like I said, I have Drake London on my team. I'm not going to add another receiver until I get the news that he's out, and in which case I'm banking on Ray McLeod being there on Saturday.
Yeah, it was actually funny because I think in 2017, the Niners had a monopoly on players named Ray because we had Ray McLeod, but then on defense, we had linebacker Ray Armstrong. I don't know if you remember him.
No, I thought he was a safety.
No, he was a linebacker. Or I think he may start as safety, but the Niners were moving him to linebacker.
2017 was when we were doing all that with Zaven Collins and who were the other? Oh God, who's the ripped guy from USC? Taylor Mays. Oh, geez, he failed miserably in San Francisco.
He was so heavy. He spent the second round pick on that guy.
Oh God, you drafted him? I thought the Giants.
The Niners drafted him. Yep, we shipped him off. I think after 2 seasons, but yeah, he was.
Yeah, it's hard to run with all those steroid muscles on your head.
So, Tad, we're talking about the Saints. Let's get to that. Let's stick to the NFC South here. So let's get to the Saints. Chris Olave, Ted. This was a hospital ball. That is the definition of the pass that Derek Carr threw. And I wasn't
okay, let me ask you. What's
Garoppolo back in 2020 when he was playing for the Niners?
Oh, no.
He absolutely injured all of the Niners on that team.
What's worse, that Derek Carr throw to Olave or the Josh Dobbs throw to Justin Jefferson last year?
They were both pretty bad.
They were both really bad.
But yeah, getting to the
so you're just going to avoid the question. All right.
Olave took a big hit in the first quarter of the game against the Carolina Panthers. He was taken off the field on a cart. He was taken back to the locker room.
For those of you who didn't see it or good with NFL history, if you remember when a certain team absolutely demolished Brad Smith of the New York Jets, way to go.
Willis.
Yeah. It was a somehow less bad version of that, but not by much. It was he got sandwiched between 2 defenders and one shoulder. It was not a dirty hit. We'll say that. It was not dirty whatsoever. But yeah, his shoulder pad just went directly into his face.
You know what's funny about that play too? Funny got in context,
obviously.
There were 4 flags on that play. Everybody saw that.
Yeah, no, that was actually
every ref threw a flag. It was that is definitely.
I will say there was comedic value to that of just oh my God. And then as you're thinking that, you just see 4 yellow,
there's literally 4 flags. Every direction of the TV screen, there was a flag
yellow
coming.
flares coming from every corner of the screen.
Exactly.
No, I will give it to you. I did kind of smirk at that. No, that's fair.
So a little bit, like I said, of comedic value to a otherwise pretty sad situation.
He's fine. He's up and walking.
So he was taken back to the locker room. He was seen walking around. He was answering some questions. So everything seems to be okay. His brother tweeted that he's perfectly fine.
Off.
His brother was going off, but then also Michael Thomas was going off on Derek Carr specifically. That's obviously the viral thing going on social media here. But the bigger thing that's a concern here, Chad, is that this is his second concussion this season. So this obviously warrants a little bit more precaution when it comes to bringing it back to the starting lineup. So he could be in a situation where even if he thinks he's ready to go this weekend, they could hold him out because of the concussion protocol that they have in place now with the NFL, that even with the important divisional game that we brought up against the Atlanta Falcons, there could be a situation where he will not be able to play because he has to go through the protocol and go through a few more extra steps, suffering his second concussion of the season here. So yeah, if Olave has to miss any time, Tad, I do not feel good about this receiver room. They have the likes of Mason Tipton. Cedric Wilson also suffered an injury in that game, so they're going to be without him as well. Cedric Wilson will be dealing with the injury as well. Yeah, it's going to be a very thin receiving room, but yeah, maybe this just means more receiving targets for Alvin Kamara. Be able to use Jamal Williams as more of a running back again, sort of thing. So it's maybe that's how they'll make some changes here. But Tad, I think let's get to the bigger news when it comes to the New Orleans Saints. Dennis Allen, who you predicted at our season preview show that he would be the first coach fired. Exactly that. He was the first coach fired of the 2020.
No, he was not. Season. No, he wasn't. I was off. You're forgetting about your former boy.
Oh, that's true. Robert Saleh. So you're close.
I didn't anticipate the Wild, and this is my fault. I didn't think the Jets were going to Jets. I should have taken that into account. The Jets did, and that was my fault. Damn,
and they're still doing it. Even with Robert Saleh out. But yeah, Dennis Allen becomes the second coach fired in the NFL. But you did predict that he would get fired this year, so it still counts. I did call midseason as well.
That
is true. And after losing 7 straight games, Tad, after winning the first 2 games of the season by 40 points in each of those games, one of those games came against the Dallas Cowboys specifically, when a lot of people still thought that they were going to be contenders at that time. As of right now, the Cowboys, I think people can see that they're a little bit more of a shamble mess there. And obviously, they blew out Carolina in that Week 1 game. But yeah, his overall coaching record, Dennis Allen, in New Orleans, 18-25 during his 3-year coaching career in New Orleans, 2.5, I guess you could probably say there. Failed to make the playoffs in any of those seasons. Assistant head coach and special teams coach Darren Rizzi will be the interim coach for the Saints going forward. But Tad, yeah, the Saints definitely needed a new head coach, and yeah, they'll be getting that in the offseason. They definitely need to make a lot of changes. Tad, we joke about this every single offseason. They're always in cap hell, so maybe a new coach will help sort of change all that around, and they could go back to being contenders again. But yeah, I think this was sort of inevitable. A lot of people did not like Dennis Allen as head coach.
Not that I have any experience like this or anything, but it's like when the girl breaks up with you, you're like, no, it's fine. We're going to get back together. We're going to get back together. And it's like a year later, it's like, dude, it's not happening. It's like, no, it's fine. It's going to happen. It's fine. It's fine. I'm hoping this is the Saints' first step towards acceptance of you're headed for a rebuild. Because exactly like what you said, you're just inside, and that's why I thought Dennis Allen would get fired, because he was just kind of I do feel bad for him, because I think it seemed like everyone except for Michael Thomas apparently, it seemed like a lot of the Saints players liked him, and that dude can coach defense. He's going to be a defensive coordinator next year. I hear Gus Bradley's moving on, so if you want to come on over to Indianapolis, that'd be great. But point being is, I think that hopefully this is the first sign that New Orleans has accepted the inevitable rebuild mode. I know you don't want to do it, but you got to do it. Every team's got to go through a rebuild mode. And I know, because the Indianapolis Colts have been doing the same thing of like, we're not rebuilding. We're fine. It's okay. Matt Ryan. Oh, that didn't work out. Okay. Flacco, Anthony Richardson, you can't put off a rebuild. If you got to rebuild. Because then you get something like people forget the Kansas City Chiefs were nothing 15 years ago. They were terrible. And now they are the new New England Patriots. And look what the Patriots are doing. They're embracing the rebuild full on. Mm-hmm. And it's looking like Drake May was the right call, by the way. And by the way, my God, our draft analysis was good on these quarterbacks. We were nailing it. But point being is, I'm really hoping this is the first step to New Orleans rebuild, because I'm very sick of them being such a middle team and just kind of like dredging along of like, we're okay. We're $60 million under the cap. And it's like, they just have
60?
got,
I thought it was like 80.
I have no idea. I don't think they do either. So it's like, it's one of those things of like, you just got to get out of this cap hell and just kind of blow up this roster. And I'm hoping this is the first sign that ownership is finally willing to do so.
Yeah, it's actually funny that you mentioned that, because with the trade deadline being tomorrow as of recording, Marshawn Lattimore, defensive back for the Saints, is actually being rumored to be interested by lots of teams are calling about his availability. So maybe with the firing of Dennis Allen, maybe this is a sign that's like maybe they move some other pieces, not just Marshawn Lattimore, maybe they move off some other guys to, like you said, get under the cap, or at least get into a better position once they get to the offseason. That's like, okay, we could clear out some more things here. So we will see what happens with New Orleans. But yeah, they'll be going with a new head coach come 2025, because Dennis Allen has been fired midway point through the season here.
Hey, New Orleans, how's it going? Heard Indianapolis has some nice mid-round picks there for Marshawn Lattimore. This is a 3rd, 4th. I'll throw in a 6. Sounds good, right? Just call me. Call Chris Ballard. Actually, don't call Chris Ballard. Don't do that.
I was about to say,
don't do that.
Chris Ballard
no, don't do that.
What's going on here?
second year's trade, he just hangs up.
All right, let's get to a few more injuries here, Tad. A.J. Brown, wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. He suffered an injury in that game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. He caught a pass in the second quarter of the game and was slow to get up from that. He came out the second half to try and warm up, but he was immediately went back to the locker room. He was ruled out for the rest of the game with a knee injury. He is dealing with a bruised knee. That is the news that has come out of Philadelphia. He's considered day-to-day, but he's looking like potentially that he could be good to go for their game this coming weekend against the Dallas Cowboys. So, I mean, it's like maybe this is a game where it's like they need him, maybe they don't need him based on everything that we talked about with Dallas there. So there could be a situation where A.J. Brown may or may not be in the lineup this weekend. So just monitor that situation as we go through the week here. If he doesn't play, I think this leads to more targets for Devontae Smith. He becomes more of a primary option. Jahan Dotson, who they acquired from the Washington Commanders, he'll be more of an option there. And rookie Johnny Wilson will probably get more involved as well. Because remember, the tight end Dallas Goedert is dealing with the injury. So whether he'll be able to play this weekend, that is also up in the air as well. So yeah, they may be going with a limited passing offense. Maybe Jalen Hurts will have another 3-touchdown rushing performance again. And maybe we'll see another, a 360 reverse hurdle by Saquon Barkley again. Maybe we'll see that happen again, but possibly we'll be without A.J. Brown this coming weekend against the Dallas Cowboys.
Johnny Wilson out of
Florida State.
Damn it.
Well, this one I knew because this was one of my guys that I felt he should have gone back to school. So that one I knew.
Well, after this Florida State season, I think he made the right call.
that probably would not have been the right.
A.J. Brown out of
Ole Miss.
Damn it.
Him and DK Metcalf.
Dallas Goedert.
Dallas Goedert is South Dakota State.
Damn it.
Yeah.
South Dakota State what?
Jackrabbits.
God damn it.
All right, let's get to the last injury here. We got a kicker on the injury report. Will Reichard.
Oh, not that mattered because we still couldn't win the damn game.
So he was dealing with a quad injury all game long, and also leading up to the game, there's questions about whether he'll be good to go during the game. He was experiencing discomfort during the game. You could see on the sideline that he was using a heating pad on his quad as well. He made all his extra points, but he did miss 2 field goals in that game, which actually kept it close during the beginning half of the game against your Indianapolis Colts. So the Vikings are thinking that he's not going to miss any time. He should be okay as we go through the practice week here. But in case they don't, in case he's not able to sort of heal up and feel a little bit better, like I said, those 2 field goals were a little bit concerning. The fact that he missed them, they may need to bring in a backup kicker to see if they can audition a few guys to go when they play the Jacksonville Jaguars this coming week. So if you have Will Reichard, maybe need to look at it.
God help me if they bring in Blankenship, I will lose my shit.
It could happen. It could happen. So, guys, those are the injuries that we want to get to, the key injuries when it comes to your fantasy football teams here in week 9. But, Tad, let us get to week 10. Let's get to our waiver wire picks. But before we get into our picks, just a reminder, we have 4 teams on a bye week this week here in week 10. We had the Cleveland Browns, the Green Bay Packers, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Seattle Seahawks. All 4 teams are on a bye week this week. So, yeah. Need to look elsewhere if you have any players from those teams on your fantasy rosters this week. So that is where we come in to help you with our waiver wire picks. Tad, let's start a quarterback. What do you got for me?
Look, the Jets are jetsing, and the Jets are going to jets. But this Jet, surprisingly, is doing better. He may be a douchebag. He may be an anti-vaxxer. He may be an idiot. He may sit in a dark room by himself for 2 days. But you know what? He's playing pretty well right now. And that is, of course, Zach Wilson. No, I'm just kidding. It's Aaron Rodgers. That was good.
Zach Wilson's on the Broncos staff.
No, I know that. It's just like, hence the joke. I couldn't, because I was trying in the moment. Is Simeon back there? Who is his backup now?
His backup's Tyrod Taylor, if I remember correctly.
No, Tyrod Taylor's with the Giants. You're mixing up your New York teams. All right, while I talk, you look up their depth chart.
Okay.
So, over the last 3 games, Aaron Rodgers has had 6 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. Again, not amazing, but pretty good. But let me read you his point totals over the last 3 games. He went from 13 points to 18 points to 20 points. Again,
yeah, you can go screw yourself because it is Tyrod Taylor.
What? The whole thing with the Giants, the Hard Knocks, was getting Tyrod Taylor as the backup. Who's Daniel Jones' backup? Don't tell me it's DeVito.
Well, DeVito is on the team, yes.
I know he's on the team.
It is Drew Lock.
Oh, son of a bitch. Wow. That Giants Hard Knocks thing. Wow. I bet you they really regret that. Because, yeah, no, they spent like a whole episode focusing on trying to get Tyrod Taylor. Also, Devin Singletary, which at the time I thought was a bad move, but looking pretty good. Anyway, going back to Aaron Rodgers, the starter. As long as he's starting, point being is he's had over 15 points in his last 2 games. Then you look at his next 2 opponents. It's Arizona and then Indianapolis. Let me tell you, Indy's pass defense, if the guy's not named Kenny Moore, he can't defend for shit. So that's a very favorable matchup. Now, I know what a lot of people are saying is like, well, Arizona, hold on. They just kicked Caleb Williams' ass, which they did. And here's the thing with Arizona is they have kept every quarterback they face, except for 3, under 15 points. But those 3 scored over 21 points. So it's a gamble. It is a gamble for sure playing him against Arizona, but I think that's a gamble worth taking because, again, he's riding a bit of a hot streak right now. And I really thought that Robert Saleh got scapegoated. Also, Nathaniel Hackett really too, because he reportedly lost play calling duties. And I think that the real culprit is Hackett because ever since the Saleh firing, this offense has looked better. You see Garrett Wilson, his stats have absolutely exploded. He got me 25 fantasy points, this past week. Devontae Adams isn't doing quite as much, but I think, he'll slowly come along as the season is going. Breece Hall, I don't know. I attribute that more to the offensive line than Breece Hall, but who knows? But point being is the more Breece Hall struggles, the more they got to pass it, which is better for Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Rodgers has 48% availability in the ESPN leagues. If you're a Geno Smith manager, if you're, for whatever reason, a Jameis Winston manager, who else is on a buy? Jordan Love. That's an interesting one. What was the 4th team?
That'd be Gardner Minshew of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Well, you're already screwed then, so it doesn't really matter. But for whatever reason, if you need a quarterback, if you're a Dak Prescott manager, Aaron Rodgers is available in about half those leagues. And also, my guess is if another guy has him or girl has him in your league, they probably aren't. The asking price for a trade probably isn't that high, and that's not a bad guy to have in your lineup for the next 2 weeks. So I actually, it's been a while since I've said this, but I think I'm a fan of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I think the big thing with Aaron Rodgers is that now with Devontae Adams in the fold, I think, like you said, maybe there's some early parts of a struggle there, but I think, give it a little bit more time. They're going to find that connection that they had back in Green Bay, obviously. And yeah, Garrett Wilson obviously had a fantastic game over the last weekend as well. So I think they're starting to gel a little bit better in the passing offense. Like you said, I think the struggles with Breece Hall will lead them to possibly passing a little bit more. And so maybe Aaron Rodgers is going to take it on himself to sort of like, I need to be the one to see it sort of lead this offense if we're going to win any more games this year, sort of thing. So it's like, I think the division, unfortunately, is out of the question for the New York Jets now, with the Bills having a 4-game lead now, if I remember correctly.
You are correct.
Yeah, so it's like, I think they could possibly still push for a wild card spot, but yeah, they definitely need to obviously string a lot of wins together. And yeah, it'll definitely go as far as Aaron Rodgers will take them. So yeah, I could see him being a good start as far as the interim good start. But yeah, long term, that's the one thing where it's like, I don't know if I like him as far as like once we even get to like the fantasy playoffs, that could be a little bit more dicey.
Shocker. Jordan Travis is out.
All right, Ted, let's get to the
He's
running
catching
back
strays.
position.
That was so mean. I'm sorry, Jordan Travis.
That was pretty bad. So let's get to the running back position here. So, I mean, I brought this up in last week's episode. It is getting thin at the running back position here. It's like all the good ones are probably taken now. So at this point, you probably want to start looking at running backs that give you high handcuff value. And so what I mean by that is obviously that if a running back were to get injured, then this guy could step in and give you the same performance that starting running back would give you. So my high handcuff running back, that was tough to say there.
No, you nailed it. Keep going.
Is Ray Davis.
See, that's what support from your co-host looks like.
Yeah, I know what you mean. No, I don't.
No, you don't.
So rookie Ray Davis, I like, of the Buffalo Bills. So he's had double-digit fantasy games, Tad, in 3 of his last 4 games. Now, I know James Cook is obviously the starting main running back there, but I still think that if Cook were to miss any time, unfortunately, if he were to suffer some sort of injury, which we're not,
we're not
putting it out there, but just saying that if for some reason he were to accidentally, hurt himself, Cap thinks it's nice. If he's handicapped by health, I think Ray Davis can step in and be a very dominant piece in this Buffalo backfield for the Buffalo Bills in case Cook had to miss any time. Because if you look at that game against the Miami Dolphins, he scored off of a 70-yard passing touchdown in that game against Miami. He was dodging defenders once he got to the open field there. This was Josh Allen's longest reception of the season. So, I mean, that sort of says something about their receiving room too there. But I think, like I said, at this point, you want to add high value handcuffs. So it's like, I mean, Tad, I think you had him as a start last week, but Chase Brown with Zach Moss being out, like that was he had a fantastic game over the weekend against the Las Vegas Raiders. So it's like, these are the guys that you want if you need roster space. If you had the roster space, these are the guys that you want to add, because then before it gets to a point where it's like, okay, unfortunately, Scott Hansen on Red Zone, it's like, oh, looks like James Cook is down with an ankle injury or something like that. Everybody's going to be clamoring to pick up Ray Davis. But if you're a step ahead and you already have Ray Davis, you're like, now I'm good to go. Now you can either use him as trade bait in case you already have good running backs, or you just put him in at your flex or possible starting running back because you have a high handcuff value there. So Ray Davis is a very good piece to add to your offense because he has value in the offense now, but 100%, like I said, if James Cook were to get hurt, he definitely holds so much more value then too.
Okay. 3 things. 1, is it Josh Allen's longest touchdown pass or Josh Allen's longest touchdown pass?
Josh Allen's, because his
okay,
last name's Allen, right?
So. Right, yeah. Well, you said Allen's is
Josh Allen's longest. Yeah, I guess that's
Allen. See, there we go. Yeah, just I know. I'm being an asshole. Sorry. Point being is, and you know what? I'll bring you. Oh, coming from you, that's golden. But I'll bring us back in the collective, bring us back together, even though I was slightly more right. Is while you were talking, I looked it up. Do you remember where you had Ray Davis ranked in your top 5 draft running backs?
Oh, that's a good question. I want to say top 3.
Close. Number
4.
Number 4. I had him at number 2.
Yeah.
I remember everyone being like, what the hell are you two talking about? Because a lot of these NFL people had him like 8, 9,
They
7,
did.
whatever.
They did, yeah.
We know our shit. People. So next, come December, January, and so forth, when you're like, why do I trust these guys with draft stuff? We saw Ray Davis's breakout coming from a mile away. Like, as soon as both of us watched this tape, we were like, this dude is awesome.
Who'd I had at number 1?
Yeah.
You saw it up.
Yes, I do. I had Jonathan Brooks at number 1. You this is not age well. You had Trey Benson at number 1.
I still have hope on Trey Benson. On Trey Benson.
And he hasn't had a fair shot, to be fair.
Yeah,
to be fair.
He scored a touchdown.
You also had Jalen Wright, who's shown some promise. So at number 2. So that was fair. Also, Jonathan Brooks, when is he going to get a shot?
Well, there's talk apparently that if they don't open his window, that he may not play at all this season. And they'll just push it to 2025. Yeah,
that would be interesting. I guess Chuba Hubbard is doing pretty well.
And also, if you look at the season, it's like they're not competing for anything right now. So it's like, why would they? I guess unless you want to pull like the Drake Bay thing, or it's like you want to see him play. It's like you want to see him at least what he does in live action. That's like I can see that potentially, but yeah, it could be a situation where they just punt him to 2025.
I see what you did there with pun. Nice. But the third thing I want to ask you is, like, I'll put you in my position, right? So a guy that you and I both were high on a couple of weeks ago, Alexander Madison.
Yeah.
Production is starting to go back down. A little concerned. It's interesting. I mean, speaking of firings, the Raiders just cleaned house of everyone except for Antonio Pierce. Would you
It's
tell
that
me?
Grim Reaper meme where it's like they got
No,
everybody else.
absolutely.
Antonio Pierce is coming.
Antonio
He's
Pierce
coming.
is up next.
It's coming.
I'll be interested if he's a one and done. Would you tell me to drop Alexander Madison for Ray Davis? Basically, like, what's that cutoff? Where, okay, should I drop this guy for Ray Davis? Because I agree that he's talented. I agree that he can produce. Fucking James Cook is in the way.
It is.
Like, that's the whole problem. Is like what tier of running back do I cut to get Ray Davis on my team?
If you're giving me Alexander Madison, I would drop Madison for Ray Davis, actually, because that's funny because I said pick up Alexander Madison last week, if I remember correctly. But I think in this situation, like I said, Ray Davis holds value even in the lineup right now because we see him getting involved. He's getting some touches. He's getting some targets as well. Whereas Alexander Madison, like that Raiders offense is really going nowhere. Now with the firing too, I don't know what it's going to look like. So it's like, I think I'd hang on to Madison at least for one more week just to see if there's any sort of change with the Raiders offense. I'm highly doubtful on that. But yeah, I think if I was in a situation where it's like you're asking me to choose between Madison and Davis, I think I'm going with Davis now.
With the Christian McCaffrey news, Jordan Mason.
Oh, that's a good one. That is a better one because, yeah, I think all reports are saying that, for all you Christian McCaffrey managers out there, all reports are saying that he's looking like he's full go. They opened his practice window.
He
He's
practiced
moving.
today.
He's moving. Yeah, he practiced today and he's like full go too. So like wasn't any sort of limitations or anything like that. So it's like it's looking like he should be ready and fully ready to go. But you just wonder whether it'll creep up again. So with Mason, I'm a little bit more hesitant. I think I'd rather hang on to Mason.
So okay. We can keep going over hypotheticals, but point being is, so I would say like, yeah, because I would put Alexander Madison as like a tier 4, almost tier 3 running back. So if, the listener or viewer understands the kind of my tier list, tier 4, drop him, pick up Ray Davis. Tier 3, hold on, hope that no one else picks him up.
But guys, if you have questions, I mean, you see the ticker coming right down below. Hit us up because we'll give you a decision. If you're like asking me about like, should I drop Alexander Madison for Ray Davis? We'll give you an answer. If you're like, should I drop Jordan Mason for Ray Davis?
We'll give you an answer.
Exactly. So it's like that is the best way you can get the personalized advice. So yeah, please don't hesitate. We're not going to go into it that much longer here. We're going to move on with the episode. But yeah, that is where social media comes in, guys. For all of you guys, if you have questions like that, you want to pick up Ray Davis, but you're not sure who to drop, that is where we step in for you.
And by the way, I think so-and-so is definitely on the rise.
So-and-so is on the rise. I would agree with that.
Nailed that dad joke.
All right, Dale, let's get to the wide receiver position here. What do you got for me?
This is a guy I've been waiting to do something all year. Finally, he's doing something because I love this trade when it happened. He wasn't doing shit. And by the way, if I'm a Browns fan, I'm sitting there being like, where the hell has this been all year? And I'm saying it's time to pick up Jerry Jeudy.
Interesting.
I thought it was interesting too, because I obviously all the focus has been on Cedric Tillman. We you and me focused on him a lot. Last week, of course, everyone was focusing on that. I guess Hail Mary, does that count? A long pass, game-winning touchdown. Cedric Tillman caught. David Njoku is obviously enjoying success right after I traded him because he's a son of a bitch.
Well, you couldn't expect that Deshaun Watson was going to get hurt.
Well, yeah, literally. It was like 2 days before that. I was like, God damn it. But point being is we now have a capable Browns offense. And let me tell you about Jerry Jeudy, because he's kind of being the unsung hero of this offense over the last 2 weeks. So, remember, what's my favorite stat when it comes to receivers?
Volume and targets.
Targets. You know me so well. So last week he had, meaning at this point, 2 weeks ago, he had 8 targets. This week he had 11 targets. So clearly now he is a focal point of this offense. He's had over 70 yards in both games. And here's what I love. You ready for this? At least in a half PPR league. So if you're in a full PPR league, it's actually more. If you're in a non-PPR league, yeah, I would recommend a switch. He's had at least 10 points in each of his last 2 games, but he hasn't caught a touchdown. I love that. I know 10 points isn't like blowing you away, but at the same time, getting to double digits without a touchdown, that's a very promising sign to me. He's available in 48% of leagues. So I think that this Browns team is really bad and they're going to have to keep passing it a lot. So I'm not expecting a dramatic decrease in targets unless the Browns trade for a receiver, which would utterly shock me. I don't see any reason they would do that. Judy's going to keep seeing this type of volume. And I think with that type of availability, like you mentioned with the running backs this late in the year, it's getting harder and harder to find good receivers as well, especially if you're a psychopath in a 12 or a 14-man league. So I think Jerry Jeudy is a very, very reliable target. And that's the big thing for me with receivers is reliability. I hate the receiver. And I know the irony of me saying that with Jameson Williams on my roster, but let me tell you, that leads to my frustration of Jameson Williams is either going to get you 1 point or 15 points. And that really drives me nuts. Jerry Jeudy with Jameis, Jesus, all these J's are throwing me off. Jameis Winston in at quarterback, no longer that receiver. That's a boomer bust. I think he is a very solid option. I don't think he's going to like really consistently go off for you. But if you're in a bye week bind where, I 2 of my receivers are on a bye week, what do? Jerry Jeudy is a very, very good option to fall back on.
Well, keep in mind, Jerry Jeudy's on a bye week this week. So, yeah, don't think about this.
I actually see that as a positive, though, because this is more advice. Because here's the thing with all these, like, waiver wire episodes is everyone's like, go for the hot name. And if you're, like, number, 8, 9, 10, Or again, if you're a psychopath, 11, 12, 13, 14 on the waiver wire, you're like, well, that doesn't do me any good. He's gone by then. I think the fact that he's on a bye week, look ahead. This is your chance to nab a really good receiver ahead of time because, yeah, I don't think he's going to be high on people's priority lists. So, you know what? We look out for all people. Even if you're doing well, we look out for you. We hate you, but we look out for you.
Yeah,
I'm
I
a
think the
little
frustration.
bitter. I'm sorry.
I think the frustration with Jerry Jeudy is that's why he got jettisoned from Denver to Cleveland, because he was very much the same thing there. Where it's just like he's getting targets, but just wasn't leading to a lot of production. Now that he's here with Cleveland, let's see whether he could sort of reestablish himself as being that former first round overall pick, number 15, if I remember correctly.
I'm on it.
And so, yeah, I hope that he could sort of emerge again, because I liked his talent when he was coming out of Alabama. Let's just see whether he could sort of lead to something more here with the Cleveland Browns and with Jameis Winston under center. But yeah, they are on a bye week this week. So yeah, just keep that in mind.
Holy shit, you are good. Jerry Jeudy was drafted by the Denver Broncos with the 15th pick of the first round in the 2020 NFL draft. Well done.
There we go.
Good God, man. I thought I was supposed to be the draft nerd here.
All right, so let's get to the tight end position, another position that gets very thin as we get further along the season. It actually gets very thin, like even just weeks into the season.
Is very thin.
But I have a guy here that I think is benefiting from some injuries on the team in the receiver room, and that is Mike Gesicki, tight end with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Pick.
T. Higgins is dealing with a quad injury. He hasn't played for the last couple of weeks. There's a chance that he may not play this week because Tad, on a short week, very good Thursday night football game. We got the Bengals and the Ravens playing on Thursday night football this week. So with the short week, there's a possibility that T. Higgins may not be ready to go. They may hold him out for one more week and then let him get that extra mini bye week and then let him go for the following week in week 11. So with that, Mike Gesicki has been the second guy that Joe Burrow is looking for in the passing offense behind, obviously, Jamar Chase, because he is second on the team in targets in the past 2 weeks when T. Higgins has been out. He's had a 100-yard receiving game, the first one of the season in this past weekend against the Las Vegas Raiders. He scored 2 touchdowns in that game, hit a gritty with Jamar Chase. That was pretty fun to see.
That's great. Well. I love that callback. That was such a great callback. And in case you were didn't understand the references, he did the gritty. Was that last year or 2 years ago? And it was terrible.
With
and
Miami, yeah, it was last year.
And Twitter roasted him for it. And ever since then, he's just kept doing it.
Yeah, I think that should become his thing now, right?
So
the
great.
terrible gritty. I think that was
just
fantastic.
Embrace it.
So yeah, he had a solid game that week, but he's had back-to-back weeks with double-digit fantasy points now that T. Higgins has been out. So yeah, like I said, on the short week, I expect T. Higgins to be out this week. Nothing has been confirmed yet, but just monitor that situation. But I think there's a good chance where T. Higgins will not be playing this week as well. This means that Mike Gesicki, who is available, Tad, in 80% of ESPN leagues, he is widely available out there. So yeah, in a short spot, in a streaming situation where if you need to pick up tight end, because we talked about it, we got David Njoku on a bye week, Tucker Kraft, Brock Bowers is on a bye week this week, guys. So
that's those are three rough tight end bye week.
Those are 3 key tight ends that are not playing this weekend. So I think in a streaming option here, Mike Gesicki will fill in that void very, very nicely.
So he's got 2 weeks ago against Philadelphia, 7 receptions, 73 yards, 8 targets. Against Vegas, 5 catches, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 6 targets. So not only is he being targeted a lot, but also if you just watch the Bengals offense, they love him as a red zone target.
Yeah.
He is a heavy red zone. He's been a heavy red zone target since he had can we just agree that was receiving touchdown week 1? I don't know if you remember that, but that was absolutely a receiving touchdown week 1. So no, they absolutely love him in the red zone target. I am just, along with you, shocked his management numbers are that low. This is, A+ pickup.
All right, Ted, what do you got for us at the kicker position?
This one's a little risky because I know that the team's struggling, but like their offense isn't, which is their losing streak continuing has really been shocking to me. And I'm saying that Jason Sanders with the Miami Dolphins is worth a pickup. Okay. And I was expecting that reaction of like, but they've lost like 5 straight.
Yeah.
But here's the thing is ever since Tua's come back, they've scored over 20 points in both games.
Their offense has been better. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's their defense that's the problem.
Yeah.
So that's where I think that you look at what Jason Sanders has done in the last 3 of his 4 games. He's scored 9 or more points. So he's not exactly blowing you away, but if you have I don't know, a Cameron Dicker only scored you 2 points. bastard.
Who Tad dropped for Blake Groupie, so that's how
Well,
committed
in one
you
of
were
my
to Blake
leagues,
Groupie.
in one of my leagues, I did. Which, by the way,
Okay.
if Groupie is out there, pick him up. I didn't want to go Groupie back. But yes, no, Groupie is the better pickup between these two. But since I can't do same pickup back-to-back weeks, Sanders is the next best thing. And you look at their next two, are two of their opponents of the next three. So they play the Rams next weekend.
Okay.
They'll love it, but maybe a high-scoring game.
I think that's the Monday night game, if I remember correctly.
Don't know.
Okay.
That does scream Monday night game, though. After that, they play Las Vegas, and then they play New England.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Those are two pretty favorable matchups. So 2 out of 3, not bad. Like I said, the Rams, not a bad matchup. It's just I could also see the Rams, especially after the performance they just put on, absolutely destroying that Miami offensive line.
Could happen.
God, Jared Verse is so good.
And Brady Fisk. Can't forget him.
God, so good. Point being, though, is 2 out of 3 favorable matchups over the next 3 weeks. Not bad for a guy who's available in 97% of leagues, which I understand why it's so high, because, you know, that offense without Tua is just worthless. But now that Tua's back, they've put up 20 points the first game he was there, if I have that correct. And I know for a fact they put up 27 points against the Bills. Not an easy task. So I think that Sanders, if you're like getting desperate for a kicker, Sanders, this is not a bad bet to go for.
True. I like that. Tad, I'm going to give you the defense of the week this week, and I think it just takes advantage of the divisional matchup that they're playing and also all the injuries that the team is suffering that they're playing against, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles as the defense to pick up this week. But also here's the key thing that's kind of surprising, because Tad, you watch the first quarter of the season and realize like, okay, this is the Eagles that we saw towards the end of last season, where it's like they went on that monstrous losing streak. They got blown out by the Buccaneers in the playoffs. It was like, what happened? Was Nick Sirianni going to get fired? It was just like a lot of question marks, right? And so we saw a lot of that at the beginning part of the season. But after the bye week, Tad, the Eagles have transformed into a different team because they have won 4 straight games now. They have allowed an average of 14.75 points to opposing teams in their last 4 games as well. Philadelphia has forced multiple turnovers in their last 2 games, and they've held opponents to an average of 214.5 total yards per game on offense in all 4 of those games. So their defense has really come around after that bye week. The offense is looking a lot better. They have scored at least 8 fantasy points in all 4 games after the bye week as well. This includes 2 double-digit performances as well. And like I said, they're playing the Dallas Cowboys this week. That is going to be without a running game. That was even there without Dak Prescott and Ceedee Lamb. Dak Prescott's going to be out. Possibly Ceedee Lamb is not going to be playing. We have to wait and see about Micah Parsons as well. But like I said, I think this is just a dream matchup scenario for fantasy managers to take advantage of, because, yeah, this is just a gift from the fantasy gods. That's like, yeah, the Cowboys are dealing with all these injuries. The Eagles are available in 50% of ESPN leagues. So go pick them up, because this is a very good streaming play. Stream and then play this coming week, because, yeah, this is a very good match to take advantage of.
No, I love it. And like, it was funny because I almost texted you of, and I'm going to double dip here, where I'm going to, stroke my draft ego twice. One, I told you guys Nakobe Dean was legit, because that game-ending interception, and if you've not seen it, go on X, because Elon Musk is a douche. Go on X and type in Nakobe Dean interception, because he ended the game against the Jaguars. Did you see that?
I did.
On an interception. I swear to God, I was like, who was the defensive back? And they were like, oh, that was Nakobe Dean. I was like, oh, my Lord, because it was very athletic. So I called him being good 2 years ago. 2, you and I both called this guy being good, not a corner. Both you and I were like, I think this guy could be a hell of a safety.
Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, exactly. And like, he has been killing it this year. Cooper DeJean, like, honestly, he's in the running for defensive rookie of the year.
It could happen. Could happen.
So, like, this Eagles team just in general is just on the rise at exactly the right moment you want your team on the rise. And like he said, it's the perfect storm, right? R.I.P. George Clooney. Mark Wahlberg. Who else was in that movie?
John C. Reilly, I think, was in that movie, right?
John C. Reilly was in that movie?
I'm pretty sure he was in Perfect Storm.
Oh my God, I need to rewatch that movie.
I think so. I'm pretty sure. Our good friend Chauncey will be able to confirm that.
Diane Keaton? Who was Superman's mom in BVS? She was in there.
Diane Lane.
There we go. Yeah, she was the bartender that was like really worried about them. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Good movie. Anyway,
It's a
point
good movie.
being is it's the perfect storm because you got the Eagles going up, the Cowboys going down.
Also, just to clarify, George Clooney is alive. His character died in Perfect Storm. So
but Mark Wahlberg is no longer with us.
you're the one who said George Clooney R.I.P. And I was like, he is still alive, people.
Hasn't said also Mark Wahlberg. No, Mark Wahlberg died protecting us from 9/11.
Oh God.
You know that quote, right?
I thought he was protecting us from Decepticons.
Well played. All right. But yes, no, I agree with your take.
Nice. So, guys, those are our waiver wire picks here for week 10. But like we sort of talked about earlier in this episode, I mean, this is the chance we're really going to plug it here. But I mean, this is the chance for you to interact with us on our social media handles. You got me on Twitter at UndecidedTwenty23. You got TadSide94. Got the show handle at The Aside Guys. And of course, on Instagram at The Aside Guys as well. So hit us up with your questions and your, decisions as far as like waiver wire, as far as start sit, as far as trades. I mean, if you need dynasty help, if you need IDP help, I mean, you name it, we have information for you because I play in a lot of IDP leagues. We both know a lot about dynasty because we're both draft guys as well. So, I mean, guys, if you need help, hit us up on our social media handles. That is the way we give you personalized advice specific for your fantasy football league because we want to help you win as many fantasy titles and take home as many fantasy championships as we can this year. Guys, make sure you subscribe wherever to your podcast. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please make sure you support our parent network at LAFB Network because they're giving you a lot of great content when it comes to the Rams and the Chargers at the professional level and the Bruins and the Trojans at the college football level. And that's just about football, but they're also doing a lot of great content now about the Clippers and the Lakers at the NBA level. And pretty soon they're going to have Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. I guess I need to clarify there. And the Los Angeles
You're
Dodgers.
out there. Do they actually care about that?
I don't know if they care about that or not. Ever since Ohtani left, they probably don't care that much now. And I heard that Mike Trout, that they're probably luring to try and save his rest of his career and trade him somewhere else.
St. Louis is great this time of year.
Yeah. You want to deal with all his injuries? Yeah, go for it. Deal with it.
Yes, I'm perfectly.
But they also are going to pretty soon have Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim coverage, as well as your now World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers content as well. So they're covering all the sports, guys. I would be surprised. I'm pretty sure they have LA Kings news probably down the road as well, guys. So LAFB Network is growing with lots of great content coming from a lot of great content producers. So support everybody there because without them, there would be no us. That is the biggest thing. For sure that me and Tad are very grateful for them for sure. But guys, to everybody who's already subscribed to our podcast and listening, who's interacting with us on social media, who's watching our videos, watching our underdog bet videos as well, we appreciate all of you guys to any way and every way that you're supporting the podcast. We cannot thank you enough.
And if you're the type that got mad because I called Diane Keaton.
Now you're calling her Diane Lang.
Is it Diane Lane?
Lane, like a road.
Road lane?
Yeah, like that.
Okay, so if you're the type like Chauncey Talese who's probably yelling at me right now.
Exactly.
LA Confidential is exactly the type of podcast.
That's the place to go for your movie stuff.
Exactly. Because they combine, they do a much better job at this than I do, which is not very tall, bar to clear.
Yeah, that's a low bar to cross.
Yeah, exactly. But you definitely check them out on the LA Fan Base Network. I'm already shouted this out, but we are expanding to baseball and basketball coverage, and especially as the basketball season rolls along, that's only going to grow bigger and bigger. Who knows? Maybe we'll start doing some fantasy basketball stuff if the demand is there. If it is, let us know. And then also check out awesome podcasts like Salute to Troy, hosted by Al Rowe. I know it's been a rough season for USC fans, but hey, if you want somewhere to vent your, frustrations, ask your questions. Al gives excellent analysis as long as your name is not Antonio Pierce or Derek Carr. So as long as you're not those two people, definitely check out his podcast. But as always, everyone, thank you for checking out our podcast. Please stay safe, everyone.